All right, so I had a gig about 2 weeks ago for a local sailing club. And besides the venue looking like the Enchantment Under the Sea dance from Back to the Future, I had the most perfect live guitar tone that I've ever had in my entire life. And it is all thanks to the PowerStage 200 by Seymour Duncan. That and the Line 6 HX Stomp XL. And I know what you're thinking. You're saying, Ryan, like Seymour Duncan, the people that make awesome guitar pickups, are you saying that I can achieve musical guitar tonal nirvana through a certain set of pickups? And yeah, up until recently, I thought they only made awesome pickups as well. But the quest for perfect guitar tone led me down a rabbit hole that is guitar forums such as the Gear Page, TDPRI, and countless other guitar forums. You see, the biggest problem that people have, and myself included, is that these things sound incredible. And in some cases, they sound better than tube amplifiers, especially in a live setting. And in particular, if you don't know how to mic an amplifier properly. But the problem is they don't feel like a cranked amplifier, especially on stage at high volumes. That light just went out, didn't it? And I get it. I've been trying to come up with a live solution for my Axe-Fx 2 XL Plus for the better part of 6 years now. I've tried running front of house and running it through the monitors, and that sounds amazing, especially when the sound guy is up to snuff and knows what he's doing. But if they don't know what they're doing, or if you have a bad monitoring system, it can get lost in the mix fairly easily. And I might have had the output on the Axe-Fx cranked a little too high, and I also might not have known how to dial in a good metal guitar tone for that short stint that I was in a metal band. I'm not saying it's user error, but I'm also not saying it's not. So that solution didn't necessarily work. The band didn't last that terribly long either. And I joined a country band and I said, you know what? I'm going to run the Axe-Fx through a clean Fender tube amp, Fender Blues Junior. And I'm going to use the MFC 101 to control the Axe-Fx for all the effects. And I know what you're thinking. And I always started thinking it too the first time I played through the first song. And I started thinking, wow, here I am playing the state-of-the-art amp modeler. Axe-Fx 3 wasn't out at the time. And I'm only using it for the effects, using a MIDI pedal board to control it as I run it through a tube amplifier. Why the heck am I not using a traditional pedal board? Why am I using this Axe-Fx? And you're probably sitting there shaking your head as well, saying, who the heck let this guy have a camera and talk about guitar tone? So I tried everything else. I tried the 4-cable method, which I quite frankly didn't really like because, quite frankly, I like having a minimalist, clean look, and I didn't like wires running all over the stage for something to trip on. And after trying everything that I could think of in the manual and everything that I knew about, chain signals, I thought, hey, I need somebody to tell me what to do. Somebody who has strong opinions. Somebody who will die on any hill defending those opinions. I need guitar forums. And after digging around on the forums long enough, I came across the solution of running the Axe-Fx into a clean power amp and then running that power amp into an actual guitar cabinet with the guitar cabinet block on the Axe-Fx turned off. And I remember thinking like Hansel from Zoolander, it's so simple. The answer is in the computer. And in this case, the computer is the amp modeler, and the amp modeler solution is turning off the amp cabinet. You know what I mean. So then I went down that rabbit hole, and let me tell you. I went real deep down that rabbit hole. And from digging around, I can see why people would buy the Kemper. And when they buy the Kemper, they buy like the silver one that's powered and not the white one. Because quite frankly, I don't think I've ever seen anybody out playing a white Kemper. Which makes sense because this is built into the Kemper. Or at least the silver one, the powered one, the more expensive one. I get it now. You don't need to buy this. You just buy the Kemper and you buy a cabinet, as the boys in Germany call it, and you're good to go. Maybe you need a remote, but other than that, you're good to go. So I stumbled across the rack-mounted units like the Matrix, which is pretty cool because at the time, my Axe-Fx was in this rack-mounted unit that looked like an amp head. It had like the toe tacks and it had like a little handle. It looked like a Marshall head, a little bit wider for the rack mounts and a little bit deeper. And I'm like, yeah, that's really cool. That's going to fit the vibe pretty well. And then I saw the price. I'm like, yeah, that's not nearly as cool as I thought it was going to be. Then I came across what's known as FR, or full range flat response monitors. And the boys on the forum say this is the way to go. But again, the FR powered monitors, the prices aren't that kosher, and they're super heavy. And being real here, yes, I work out. I lift heavy circles and the voices in my head go away. But the last thing that I want to do right before I play a gig is lift 70 pounds up 3 flights of stairs in a dingy, unlit bar. It's just not my kind of version of fun. Then I finally came across the Seymour Duncan PowerStage 200. Houston, we have liftoff. So first things first, yes, this is an amplifier. No, it is not a tube amplifier. It is a really, 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 really clean solid-state amplifier that essentially takes your signal coming out of an amp modeler, like the Line 6, HX Stomp, Kemper, Axe FX, and boosts it to the loudness levels that can go through a guitar cabinet and play and move air through a guitar cabinet. And it also has this really cool feature right here. It's called the cabinet sim. And when it's pressed on, this little device, when it goes out through the headphones and this balanced XLR, will simulate a cabinet. And that's really cool because you can turn off the cab lock in your amp modelers, saving you some processing space, and then run this to front of house, and then through these quarter jacks, run it to your speaker cabinet of choice. I prefer this Blackstar St. James vertical 2x12. And it sounds incredible because not only am I getting the feeling of the amplifier in the cabinet moving air behind me, but I also get crystal clear sounds coming from my in-ear monitors coming from the front of house. So I know what you're thinking. Cab sims, that's really cool. A lot of other companies are doing that too. But what kind of cabinet is it? What kind of speaker is inside that cabinet? What's miking it? What's the emulation? How far away from the speaker is the microphone? We are some serious nerds here, aren't we, boys? But I was confused by all of this as well. I mean, what cabinet is it simulating? I mean, that is a good question. Well, I did some further digging, and turns out, according to the article, How to Use the Seymour Duncan PowerStage, which is a great place to start when you're using something new, I must admit, they claim that the cab sim is a well-mic'd 4x12, and the included EQ knobs here can help dial in your tone in the cab emulations when you press this button that says EQ. And the EQ only impacts the XLR and the headphones, so it does not impact the quarter inch to your speakers. Good to know. Now I'll admit, I'm not nearly as smart as half you guys out there watching this video on things like speakers. I don't know if I'm playing through a vintage 30s, creambacks, Eminent Swamp things. I mean, I literally have no idea. But what I do know is that if I turn these knobs a little bit, I can get exactly the sound that I want. And sure, there is something to be said for having complete tonal control. I mean, that's the whole purpose of having an amp modeler after all, right? You have unlimited amount of resources and sounds and capabilities to make and craft the perfect guitar tone. But let me ask you something. When was the last time you had the perfect guitar tone on stage? When was the last time you heard another guitar player have the perfect guitar tone on stage? And your answer is probably the last concert that you went to that was part of a nationwide tour from a major act or a huge band. And you're absolutely 100% correct. But let me ask that question again with a little bit of a twist. When was the last time that you had the perfect guitar tone live at a gig? Or when was the last time that you heard a local guitar player from a local band have the perfect guitar tone at a gig? I'd gather to say it's been quite a while, if ever. You see, guitar tone is something that we're always constantly chasing, never fully satisfied. It's kind of like the proverbial dog chasing his tail. And usually when the dog catches the tail, he's looking up for the next greatest thing and doesn't really know what to do with himself. And I'm not saying this to bash the local guitar players or even your guitar tone, for example, but the people who are using these kind of products for guitars, these are people who are probably playing local bands, maybe wedding gigs, maybe a local festival. which is amazing because a lot of my favorite music is from those scenes. But when you really think about it, really think about it, last time you were at a loud bar with a band playing, you probably didn't really hear a whole lot of the guitar tone. And if you did, that's great. But chances are it was drowned out by the drums and the bass because you're in a bar and the whole thing is just EQ'd terribly. No matter how hard you adjust the EQ, it's just a bad room. Or maybe that's just my experience and I know absolutely nothing and I'm just talking out my butt. Could be that too. And for you guys that need to have the perfect tone, you can always mic the cabinet that you place after this thing. I mean, heck, that's the reason why I got it after all. Last thing I'll say about amp modelers, if you're only going to use one amp style for the entire night of a gig, say it's a Fender Bassman, why not just buy the amplifier to begin with? I mean, any decent amp modeler is going to cost about the same price as any good tube amplifier. Just buy the tube amp. So I absolutely love the Seymour Duncan PowerStage. It has totally changed my guitar playing, especially in a live setting. It is loud enough to keep up with our drummer, who is obsessed with Rush. It's lightweight, it packs a punch, and most importantly, it sounds fantastic. Anyway, thanks for watching the video. If you want to know more about the PowerStage, check out the links in the description box below. It's a great way to help support the channel if that's something you want to do, or if you're just curious about what the PowerStage specs really are. Like and subscribe if you had a good time today, and until next time, let the music play.